Exclusive bombshell for Viking Nation. 5 earth-shattering revelations are about to rock the purple and gold kingdom. And trust me, you're not ready for what's coming next, because what I'm about to reveal will send shockwaves through every NFL locker room from Minneapolis to Green Bay. A beloved legend might be coming home in the most emotional reunion since Brett Favre tried to destroy Green Bay. And the insider signals are getting so loud that even Packers fans are starting to panic about what this means for their division dreams. A head coach just flashed the kind of smile that sends rival defensive coordinators into emergency meetings. And when Kevin O'Connell grins like that, championship windows start opening and Super Bowl odds start shifting in ways that make Las Vegas bookmakers nervous. A blockbuster superstar from our division rivals is suddenly wearing purple in trade simulations. And this isn't just any receiver we're talking about. This is a 2-time Pro Bowl weapon who could transform our offense overnight and make Justin Jefferson even more unstoppable than he already is. An all-pro veteran is being targeted in what could be the steal of the century, with financial details and roster moves aligning in ways that suggest this homecoming story is closer to reality than anyone dared to imagine just 72 hours ago. And a homecoming story so perfect, it reads like a Hollywood script is gaining serious momentum behind the scenes, with NFL insiders dropping breadcrumbs that lead directly back to Minnesota and a reunion that would make grown Vikings fans cry tears of pure joy. Each of these revelations could single-handedly redefine not just our receiving core, but the entire trajectory of this franchise. And I'm about to walk you through every single detail that has NFL insiders buzzing and division rivals panicking. Because what's happening in Minnesota right now is the kind of chess game that separates championship organizations from pretenders. So buckle up, Viking Warriors, because the first revelation is about to detonate inside US Bank Stadium and send shockwaves straight through Lambeau Field and into the nightmares of every Packers fan who thought they could cruise to another division title. But hold on, as shocking as that news cycle has been, the momentum behind Adam Thielen's potential return to Minnesota is reaching a fever pitch that nobody saw coming. And the breadcrumbs being dropped by NFL insiders are impossible to ignore anymore, because what we're witnessing is the perfect storm of opportunity, necessity, and pure football poetry that could bring home one of the most beloved players in franchise history. Adam Thielen, the Detroit Lakes native who became a Vikings legend after walking on as an undrafted free agent and proving that heart, determination, and Minnesota toughness can overcome any obstacle, is suddenly the hottest name connected to Minnesota's desperate search for receiving depth. And the signals being sent are louder than the Gallahorn on game day, while being more obvious than Aaron Rodgers' drama queen tendencies. Kay Adams has been absolutely relentless on social media, pushing Thielen to Vikings content like she knows something the rest of us don't. And after interviewing Kevin O'Connell and watching him grin like the Cheshire Cat when asked about a Thielen reunion, she's been blasting her feed with purple and gold breadcrumbs that have Viking Nation losing their minds, and Packers fans desperately trying to convince themselves this is all just wishful thinking. Tom Pelissero, who lives right here in Minnesota and has connections deeper than the Mississippi River running through our state, dropped the hammer on NFL Network when he said the Vikings are seriously exploring veteran receiver options, and specifically mentioned Thielen as somebody Vikings fans know well, adding that while Carolina hasn't wanted to give him away since last year's trade deadline when multiple teams called inquiring about his availability, there's real potential for bringing the Minnesota native back home where he belongs and where his career should rightfully end. The numbers tell the story of why this would be poetry in motion. 9 seasons in purple and gold, 534 catches that included some of the most clutch receptions in franchise history, 6,782 yards that helped carry this team through countless fourth quarter comebacks, 55 touchdowns that sent US Bank Stadium into eruptions that registered on seismographs, 2 Pro Bowl selections that proved his elite status, and memories burned into every Vikings fan's heart from those magical 2017 and 2018 seasons when Thielen was catching everything thrown his way and making Lambeau Field his personal playground where Packers defensive backs went to die. At 34 years old, coming off 2 seasons in Carolina where he's proven he can still produce at an elite level despite quarterback chaos that would have destroyed lesser players, Thielen represents the perfect combination of proven production, locker room leadership, and emotional connection to this franchise that money can buy and chemistry can be taught. The timing couldn't be more perfect, with Jordan Addison suspended for the first 3 games after his DUI arrest, Rondale Moore done for the season with a knee injury that crushed depth charts and emergency plans, and Jalen Naylor dealing with a hand injury that has his week 1 status. In serious question, while the coaching staff scrambles to find reliable targets for their passing attack, do you believe in fairy tale endings that make grown men cry? Do you want to see the Packers cry themselves to sleep knowing Thielen is back in purple and ready to torch their secondary one more time? Because this reunion story is building steam like a freight train heading straight for Green Bay. And when it happens, not if, but when, Lambeau Field is gonna sound like a funeral home every time we roll into Wisconsin with number 19 back where he belongs. And just when fans thought the Thielen buzz couldn't get any more intense, Kevin O'Connell just delivered the kind of coach speak that had NFL analysts rewinding the tape and Viking Nation reading between every single line like it was the Da Vinci Code of football insider information. Kevin O'Connell faced the media with the poise of a championship coach who's been through these situations before, but when the conversation turned to his receiving core and the potential for adding veteran talent, his confidence in the guys already in the building was absolutely infectious, while simultaneously revealing the strategic thinking that makes him one of the most respected offensive minds in the entire league. Speaking about our Jalen Naylor, O'Connell dropped some serious knowledge that reminded everyone why this coaching staff sees things the rest of us miss, and why their player development has become the gold standard across the NFL. During Jordan Addison's high ankle sprain early last season, it was Naylor who stepped into the fire and delivered exactly when the Vikings needed him most, proving that depth isn't just about having warm bodies, but about having players who can rise to the occasion when championship dreams are on the line. 3 touchdowns in 2.5 games, clutch catches that helped Minnesota start 3-0 and establish the early season momentum that carried them deep into playoff contention, and the kind of big playability that earned him the nickname Speedy from teammates who see him work every single day and know exactly what kind of weapon he becomes when the lights are brightest and the stakes are highest. O'Connell's faith in Naylor isn't blind optimism or coach speak designed to deflect difficult questions. It's based on real production when the lights were brightest and the stakes were highest. And while the media wants to focus on what Minnesota doesn't have, this head coach is focusing on maximizing what they do have while building the kind of culture that turns good players into great ones and great players into legends. But here's where it gets absolutely fascinating, and where O'Connell showed exactly why he's considered one of the brightest offensive minds in football. When Kay Adams asked him directly about Adam Thielen potentially returning to Minnesota, his response was the kind of masterclass in media relations that had Vikings fans screenshot his smile and turn it into memes within hours, while simultaneously sending coded messages that only the most astute football observers could fully decode. "I love Adam Thielen," O'Connell said, with the kind of genuine affection that can't be faked, before diving into how instrumental Thielen was during that magical 2022 season when this coaching staff first took over and built something special from day one, establishing the foundation of culture and excellence that has made Minnesota one of the most respected organizations in the league. The respect and admiration dripping from every word O'Connell spoke about Thielen wasn't just professional courtesy or media-trained politeness. It was the kind of genuine appreciation that former teammates have for players who helped establish a culture. And when he talked about Thielen's impact on young players in Carolina, you could practically see the wheels turning in his head about how that veteran presence would transform Minnesota's locker room and accelerate the development of every young receiver in the building. O'Connell closed by saying the Vikings will continue assessing their roster and looking for ways to make the team better, which in coach speak translates to, "We're definitely making moves. Just be patient and trust the process." Are you feeling that energy building inside US? Bank Stadium like electricity before a thunderstorm. Can you imagine the eruption when Thielen takes his first snap back in purple and gold? And can you picture the devastation on Packers fans' faces when they realize their worst nightmare is coming true? Because O'Connell's smile told us everything we needed to know. And Packers fans are already ordering extra tissues for the upcoming season while desperately hoping this is all just Minnesota media propaganda. But trust me, the story only gets more explosive from here. Because while Minnesota has been playing coy about their receiver situation like a poker player with pocket aces, another name has emerged that would turn the entire NFC North upside down and leave division rivals scrambling to keep up with what could be the most devastating offensive transformation in recent franchise history. Terry McLaurin, the dynamic two-time Pro Bowl receiver currently holding out from Washington Commanders training camp like a superstar who knows his worth and isn't afraid to demand it, has suddenly become the most intriguing possibility for a Vikings trade that would create absolute chaos across the league and force every defensive coordinator in our division to completely redesign their game plans. McLaurin isn't just any receiver available on the trade market. He's a route running technician with elite ball skills, yards after catch ability that turns 5-yard slants into house calls, and the kind of contested catch prowess that transforms offenses overnight and makes quarterbacks look like Hall of Famers even when they're struggling with accuracy and decision making. The fact that he's publicly requested a trade while Washington struggles with contract extension negotiations has created the perfect storm for Minnesota to strike like lightning and acquire game-changing talent without having to compete with half the league in a bidding war. The Vikings receiving room is in genuine crisis mode right now, with Jalen Naylor sidelined indefinitely with a hand injury that threatens his availability for the season opener, Rondale Moore done for the season with a knee injury that destroyed all depth chart calculations, Jordan Addison facing suspension for the first 3 games after his DUI arrest last season, and Justin Jefferson needing legitimate support to maximize his otherworldly talents and prevent defenses from simply doubling him on every single snap. McLaurin would solve every single one of those problems immediately while creating a receiving duo that would give defensive coordinators nightmares from September through February and force opposing teams to choose their poison when deciding how to allocate their defensive resources. Picture this scenario that would make Packers fans require therapy. Jefferson running routes from the slot while McLaurin commands the outside. Both capable of winning at every level of the field, both impossible to cover with single coverage, both possessing the speed to take any route to the house, and both operating within Kevin O'Connell's offensive system that has already proven it can maximize elite talent and create mismatches that exploit every weakness in opposing defenses. The proposed trade package makes perfect sense for both sides and demonstrates the kind of win-now mentality that championship organizations employ when their window is wide open. Minnesota sends a 2026 second-round pick and young receiver Ty Felton to Washington, giving the Commanders the future draft capital they're seeking while landing a developmental prospect with upside who could contribute immediately in their rebuilding process. For the Vikings, it's the kind of win-now move that championship organizations make when the window is wide open and the roster needs one final piece to compete with the elite teams in the NFC, transforming them from playoff contenders into legitimate Super Bowl threats who can match up with any offense in the league. McLaurin's ability to align outside or in the slot, his proven track record of producing despite quarterback instability that would have destroyed lesser receivers, and his reputation as a locker room leader who elevates everyone around him would instantly elevate Minnesota's ceiling from playoff contender to Super Bowl threat while giving rookie quarterback JJ McCarthy 2 elite targets to build his confidence and accelerate his development into a franchise cornerstone. Kevin O'Connell's offensive system is tailor-made for a player like McLaurin, whose skill set would complement Jefferson perfectly while giving both receivers the freedom to operate in space and create the kind of explosive plays that demoralize opposing defenses and energize home crowds. Are you ready to watch Packers defensive backs get torched by the most dangerous receiving duo in the division? Can you imagine the panic in Chicago and Detroit when they realized Minnesota just loaded up for a championship run that could dominate the NFC North for years to come? Because if this McLaurin trade happens, the Vikings don't just improve their offense, they completely transform their Super Bowl odds and send a message to the entire league that purple and gold means business, and this organization is ready to do whatever it takes to bring a championship home to Minnesota. Stay with me, because what comes next will flip the script in ways nobody predicted, as the Adam Thielen reunion rumors have officially been confirmed by the most connected insider in the business, and the financial details are painting a clearer picture of how this emotional homecoming could actually become reality instead of just wishful thinking from a fan base desperate to see their prodigal son return home. Tom Pelissero didn't just mention Thielen in passing during a casual segment about potential trades. He specifically named him as a realistic target while reporting that the Vikings are seriously exploring veteran receiver options, which in NFL insider language means phone calls are already happening, numbers are being crunched, and general managers are having detailed conversations about compensation packages and salary cap implications. The financial obstacle that seemed insurmountable to casual observers is actually more manageable than critics want to admit. Thielen's $6 million base salary isn't pocket change in today's NFL landscape, but for a team with championship aspirations and the cap space to absorb it, that's simply the cost of doing business when you're trying to complete a Super Bowl puzzle and add the final pieces that separate contenders from pretenders. Carolina has been reluctant to move Thielen since last year's trade deadline, when multiple teams called inquiring about his availability, viewing him as a valuable veteran presence and reliable target for their young quarterback. But circumstances change rapidly in the NFL, and the Panthers' investment in young receivers through recent drafts has created a surplus that could make Thielen expendable for the right price and the right compensation package. What makes this situation absolutely fascinating and potentially game-changing is that Thielen himself is approaching his 35th birthday and likely entering his final NFL season, which means he has significant leverage in determining where he wants to finish his career. And does anyone really believe he'd rather retire as a Panther when he could come home to Minnesota and chase a championship with the organization that discovered him, developed him, and loved him first during those magical years when he was catching everything thrown his way? The Vikings have built their entire organizational identity around developing undrafted free agents and homegrown talent, and Thielen represents the gold standard of that philosophy. A kid from Detroit Lakes who walked onto the practice squad with nothing but determination and Minnesota toughness, then transformed himself into one of the most reliable receivers in franchise history while embodying everything this fan base loves about their team. Kevin O'Connell avoided specifics when asked about a potential reunion, but calling himself a huge fan of Thielen while praising his leadership and impact on young players isn't the kind of language coaches use unless they've already had internal discussions about making it happen and exploring every possible avenue to bring him back to Minnesota. Roster cutdowns are approaching fast, which could give Minnesota additional flexibility to restructure deals and create the cap space necessary to bring Thielen home. And if general manager Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah can find a way to make the numbers work without compromising the team's long-term financial health, this becomes the kind of feel-good story that energizes an entire fan base heading into a crucial season where championship expectations are higher than they've been in decades. The beauty of this potential move isn't just about adding depth or veteran leadership. It's about completing one of the most emotional circles in recent NFL history, bringing home a player who represents everything this organization stands for and giving him the chance to finish his career where it all began. Do you want to see Thielen catch his first touchdown pass back in Minnesota? And watch US Bank Stadium explode with the kind of emotion that makes grown men cry? Are you ready to watch him celebrate in front of the same fans who cheered every catch during his prime years and who never stopped believing he belonged in purple and gold? Because this isn't just about adding depth anymore. This is about completing one of the most emotional circles in recent NFL history. And Viking Nation deserves to see their prodigal son come home where he belongs and where his legacy was built, one spectacular catch at a time. And listen closely, the next 72 hours might be the most decisive in this franchise's recent history. Because everything we've discussed isn't just speculation anymore. It's momentum building toward decisions that will define the Vikings championship window and determine whether this season becomes legendary or just another missed opportunity in a division that's up for grabs. The damn Thielen reunion story has evolved from wishful thinking to legitimate possibility, with NFL insiders confirming active interest and financial analysts breaking down how the numbers could work, despite initial skepticism about his $6 million salary and the complications that come with mid-season roster additions. Tom Pelissero's report wasn't just throwing a name against the wall to generate clicks and social media engagement. It was calculated information from someone who understands the Vikings front office better than most. And when he specifically mentioned Thielen is a name to watch while discussing Minnesota's serious exploration of veteran receivers, that was as close to a guarantee as we get in today's NFL rumor mill, where information is carefully controlled and strategically leaked. The Terry McLaurin bombshell adds another layer of intrigue to Minnesota's approach, because targeting multiple high-caliber veterans simultaneously shows this organization isn't interested in band-aid solutions or quick fixes. They're swinging for the fences and trying to maximize their championship window while Justin Jefferson is in his prime and Kevin O'Connell's system is hitting its stride as one of the most innovative and explosive offenses in the entire league. Kevin O'Connell's confidence in Jalen Naylor provides the perfect safety net for whatever moves come next, because having a proven commodity who's already delivered in big moments and stepped up when the team needed him most means Minnesota can be patient and selective rather than desperate and reckless in their pursuit of additional talent. The financial considerations that seem prohibitive to outside observers are actually manageable for a franchise with legitimate Super Bowl aspirations and the kind of front office leadership that knows how to manipulate the salary cap and create flexibility when championship opportunities present themselves. The roster cut-downs approaching could provide additional flexibility to restructure contracts and create the space necessary for impact additions that could transform this team from playoff contender to Super Bowl favorite. What we're witnessing is a masterclass in roster construction by Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, who has built a team good enough to compete for championships while maintaining enough flexibility to add the final pieces when opportunities present themselves and elite talent becomes available. The emotional component of bringing Thielen home cannot be understated. This is a player who embodies everything Vikings fans love about their organization, from humble beginnings to maximum effort to clutch performances when the stakes are highest and the margin for error is smallest. Whether it's Thielen providing veteran leadership and reliable hands in crucial moments, McLaurin forming a dynamic duo with Jefferson that terrorizes division rivals and forces defensive coordinators to choose their poison, or Naylor stepping up and proving he belongs among the league's emerging talents the next few days, will determine whether Minnesota enters the season as playoff hopefuls or championship contenders who can match up with anyone in the NFC. The Vikings have built something special in Minnesota, with a culture that attracts elite talent and a system that maximizes every player's potential. And now they're on the verge of adding the final pieces that could make this season absolutely unforgettable. If you bleed purple and gold deeper than any rival bleeds their colors, if you believe this roster has everything necessary to win it all and bring home the franchise's first Super Bowl championship, if you want to watch Packers fans cry themselves to sleep, knowing Minnesota just got exponentially more dangerous and loaded up for a championship run that could dominate the NFC North for years to come, then smash that subscribe button right now and prove your loyalty to this franchise runs deeper than any rival's hatred. Comment below with your prediction for which receiver Minnesota lands. First, hit that like button if you think Thielen comes home where he belongs and finishes his career in purple and gold. And make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on, because when these trades start happening, you'll want to be the first to know that the Vikings just loaded up for a championship run that will make this season absolutely unforgettable and turn our division rivals into bitter, jealous spectators. Because if you thought this was wild, just wait until the rivals make their counter move. The war for NFC North supremacy is just beginning, and Minnesota just fired the first shot that's going to echo through Lambeau Field, Soldier Field, and Ford Field all season long. while reminding everyone that when the Vikings get serious about winning championships, the entire league takes notice and division rivals start panicking about their own championship dreams, going up in purple and gold flames.